Hello, welcome to the Four Cardinal Points official channel. Four Cardinal Points organization is a multifaceted analysis and research center based in Istanbul, Turkey. Today I'm going to talk about a hypothetical political situation in which the United States disintegrated as a nation. That's why I call this period of analysis the fragile giant, exploring the potential disintegration of the United States. The United States of America has long stood as a symbol of democratic endurance, economic might, and national unity. Yet, beneath the surface of this powerful federation lies a complex and sometimes volatile patchwork of ideologies, cultures, economies, and geographies. While national collapse or disintegration is far from inevitable, the forces capable of pushing the US towards such a fate are worth analyzing. I will examine the theoretical paths by which the United States could fragment, drawing from internal stressors, global parallels, and speculative modeling. One of the most immediate and visible threats to national cohesion is the deepening partisan divide. American politics have grown increasingly polarized along ideological lines, which issues such as reproductive rights, gun control, immigration, and federal oversight create seemingly irreconcilable differences between red and blue states. In a scenario where a presidential election results in contested legitimacy, with multiple factions claiming victory and no effective resolution, the precedent for unity could be fatally undermined. States like California and Texas, with strong economies and political identities, could become centers of resistance or defiance. Nullification of federal laws, formation of regional militias, or refusal to comply with federal agencies could initiate a cascade of constitutional breakdown. A prolonged standoff could lead to a de facto cessation without formal declarations, ushering in an era of fragmented governance. If we take into account economic collapse and the pull of regionalism, economic fragilities poses another threat. A major financial crisis, such as a federal debt default, hyperinflation, or collapse of the US dollar, could severely weaken central authority. In such a scenario, wealthier and self reliant states might balk at funding federal bailouts for poorer regions, leading to resentment and eventual economic secession. The Great Depression demonstrated the importance of federal cohesion in crisis, but if that cohesion were to fail, states and regional blocs may prioritize local control of resources, energy, and currency. An Appalachian Republic, Pacific Federation, or Texan Confederation could rise out of necessity rather than ideology. Another issue is climate change. Another set of issues are climate change, internal migration, and environmental resource wars. Climate change represents a long-term existential stressor with fragmentation potential. Rising sea levels, mega droughts, and wildfire proliferation may force internal migration on an unprecedented scale. As populations flee uninhabitable zones, particularly coastal or arid regions, host states may resist influxes of climate refugees. Such migrations could ignite interstate conflict over housing, employment, and especially water. For instance, disputes over the Colorado River between California, Arizona, and Nevada already hint at resource-based tensions. With federal authority weakened or contested, states could militarize their borders or prioritize local needs over national unity, leading to environmental driven fragmentation. In terms of cultural and ethnic fragmentation, America, the United States of America, America's cultural diversity is one of its greatest strengths, but also a point of tension. Racial and ethnic divisions, linguistic diversity, religious conservatism versus secular progressivism, and debates over a historical identity have all contributed to a fragmented national narrative. In extreme cases, identity based separatism could flourish. Regions with strong cultural identities, such as Native American sovereign lands, Chicano nationalist movements in the Southwest, or Black separatist ideologies in parts of the Deep South, might pursue autonomy or independence under a breakdown of federal protection or legitimacy. These groups, long marginalized, might see fragmentation as a path toward self determination. Another issue is constitutional crisis and federal breakdown. When could we encounter these very important issues? Um, the vector lies within the US Constitution itself. If federal institutions fall into dysfunction, if the presidency defies judicial rulings or Congress becomes paralyzed, then the underlying system of checks and balances could collapse. Such a constitutional crisis could produce rival governments, disputed laws, and even breakaway emergency republics formed by states seeking to preserve order. This would echo the collapse of the Soviet Union, for example, where individual republics declared independence amid institutional failure and an absent central authority. Similar dynamic in the US could lead to rival constitutional conventions and competing visions for governance. In terms of infrastructure collapse, cyber warfare, and technological breakdown, um, could erode federal control in days. A targeted cyber attack on power grids, banking systems, or communication infrastructure would force states to act independently. In such a scenario, large tech companies or private security forces might fill the vacuum left by paralyzed institutions, replacing national cohesion with corporate governance or regional technocracies. In the case of a pandemic like the COVID-19 pandemic that we had, um, COVID-19 revealed how quickly national unity can fray during a public health crisis. States closed borders, defied federal mandates, and developed independent health strategies. A future pandemic, more contagious and far deadlier, could render federal coordination impossible, leading to the de facto quarantine states. If such a crisis lasted years or recurred in waves, the federal system could disintegrate under the pressure of localized survivalism. Now let's examine the possible breakaway regions. Various speculative models imagine the US breaking into several sovereign entities. Cascadia, the Pacific Northwest, progressive, eco-focused, aligned with Canada or global environmental pacts. The Republic of Texas, independent, conservative, energy-rich nationalist. New England Federation, technocratic, Atlanticist, possibly merging with Canadian provinces. Mountain West Redoubt, libertarian, isolationist, gun rights oriented. So-called Azteca, Latino majority state with bilingual governance and cultural independence. Deep South Confederation, Christian conservative, rural values, low federal trust. Each region would bring its own cultural, economic, and political identity, potentially clashing or collaborating in a post US world. Now, let's take a look at what the global consequences of US disintegration would be. A US breakup would shake global stability. The dollar would likely collapse, leading to a financial depression worldwide. NATO and other security alliances could fail. China, Russia, or other powers might fill the geopolitical void. Nuclear command protocols would be a global concern. Migration, tech standards, and trade systems would all be thrown into chaos. So, in conclusion, the disintegration of the United States remains unlikely but not impossible. A perfect storm of political dysfunction, economic crisis, environmental catastrophe, and cultural division could unravel the federation that has stood for nearly 250 years already. Understanding these fault lines is not an exercise in fear, but in preparation. National unity is not self sustaining, it must be continuously reaffirmed through good governance, shared values, and institutional resilience. Whether the US holds together in the face of mounting pressure will depend not on fate, but on foresight and collective will. And this has been all today. Thank you very much for watching. If you think I deserve a subscription, please subscribe. If you think I deserve a like, please like the video. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Have a good day.